Alright, welcome to another video. Now today we got a interesting video here. Now, I'm willing to have this conversation because I'm starting to realize that I'm having a bit of an issue with this, and some people need to be a little bit, a little educated on this topic and a little bit educated on what's going on. Because I feel like over the years we've had a huge issue telling the difference between certain rappers who are at a high level and certain ones that are at least below the level that they're actually supposed to be. Now, of course, I'm going to make this very, very clear because I think a lot of people need to understand that there's a huge difference between below average and above average rappers. And I think I have to literally bring this up in a way. Now, before people literally wonder why I'm saying this, is because over the last damn near decade plus, 10 years plus, I've had to literally do a lot of research, do a lot of planning, do a lot of organizing on the way of how I determine what rappers do objectively. I had to do that a lot because one thing for sure was that over time I had to realize I had to do this completely unbiased. And literally I had no choice but to do that because otherwise I would just be no better than anyone else, really. So I decided to do the research because since some people are too lazy to do it, I did it on my own. And since the hip-hop historians refused to release any type of files on these things, I decided to do my own research and do these entire things to make things reasonable. Now, I'm not going to be 100% right. I'm not going to be 100% wrong. It's going to be at least... I'll give it at least 92. Close to 92, 95. That's a reasonable amount of a number because 9 times out of 10, I'm more than likely to be wrong. So, well, actually, no. Yeah. Because I can be wrong about certain things. I can definitely be wrong about certain things. 100%. So, this is going to be a reasonable, brief breakdown on this particular scenario where you could tell the difference between below average, average, and above average. We're going to have this discussion today, and I'm willing to actually jot it down for y'all in simple terms because when I did the document specifically, it's a lot more specific than that, but since I don't want to make it at least in an hour video, I don't want to do that. So we're just going to make it brief, make it simple, nothing too serious, okay? So, let's start with below average. Now, this one is actually very, 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 very important for some people because I think when it comes to the talent pool in the mainstream nowadays, this is the current number that it's currently at. Now, I had made it abundantly clear that it is slowly decreasing. But the talent pool has decreased at this point. So, yeah. Now, regardless if you think this otherwise, you can take this with a grain of salt because I literally did the research myself. If anything, I had to literally go through each and every single history of the talent pool in the mainstream since 1979. So, but anyway, so let's just go through everything else here, shall we? So the below average rapper is more than likely to have basic craft, phenomenal production because production kind of overvalues their craft in order for them to literally excel in the mainstream. That's basically how in the world they kind of got into the mainstream in the first place. Excelling production, and since radios, anything else across the board don't really care about craft anymore. They don't really care about the craft of rap as a whole. They have to align with just basic craft. So, hey, you gotta get used to it. Now, this also applies to zero on mastery with battle rap and boom bap. Now, boom bap 101. This is very important because across history, everybody has to go through it. They have to make sure that they can rap over any beat. That means literally going through the traditional boom bap beat as well. And a lot of times we've had these issues where over the years, at least around this part of the talent pool in the mainstream, we started to notice that some of them can't actually rap over that beat, which is pretty bad in itself. Some of them are solid, some of them are good, but then there's a certain amount of them that can't do it. And this happened for not only this generation's of mainstream, it also happened back then, which was rare, honestly, and I wasn't surprised by that at all. So I moved on with it completely. Now, of course, I'm gonna name only one person in this. Now, granted, he's only going to be at least below average to average. I'll bring him up right as soon as I talk about the average part, but I will bring him up in the midst of that and you'll see what I'm talking about. But nevertheless, we're also going to talk about the fact that the creativity is like a kindergartner. Now, of course, when you talk about imagery, you have to be at least excellent with that, because I think a lot of people, and no offense, but creative and artistry is about how to paint a picture in your mind. And the way certain rappers do it, it depends. They could be direct with it, which is also good. They could also be a little bit more exquisite with it. Like, they could be at least a little bit more fancier. They can figure out a way to be a little bit flashier, or they could literally like be as specific, but also be as literally artistic as possible with the things they say and how they paint a picture with their words. They can do very well with that. And that is something that is very good when it comes to being not only a rapper, but also an artist as a whole. And that's what I truly respect. Now, there is some of them that kind of don't really try and just flat out say it. And it kind of falls flat, in a sense. And when it does fall flat, people kind of get the imagery quickly, but it becomes repetitive and boring after a while. And I think a lot of people realize, like, when there's so many people that already know what it's like to use imagery when it comes to rap, it's very, 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 very. Now, there are some people who completely ignores it, obviously, because they want to just enjoy the music. But you do have some people in the hip-hop world that do actually pay attention to imagery. And they pretty much respect that, in a sense. So, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that would be the case. So, now, let's move on to the average here, shall we? Now, the average is pretty neutral, considering the difference. It could be either below average to average, or average to above average. Now, we're not going to talk about above average just yet. We're going to just talk about specifically these two, because I want to bring up one specific person that fits this category, and that is Lil Wayne. Now, a lot of people need to understand that Lil Wayne is very big. He fits on the average category because he has a good craft and excellent production, 100%. But what he falters on is kind of something that I've always talked about for years, kind of something that I had to people with him, is the fact that he has zero mastery on not only battle rap, but also boom bap 101. Now, I would say it was going to be 50-50 on mastery, but it's kind of 50-0 with it. Because it's 50% that he's good with battle rap, because no offense, he's actually really, really good. Well, nourished on that one, so I give him that. But he's also zero with boom bap. He struggles to literally rap on that beat specifically. So, of course, I had literally had a problem with that back then, but now I'm kind of like chill with that, but I still kind of like a sting, like, you know how like the beat sting is made to like deal with. It's kind of like now the creativity, like the kindergartner. Well, okay, let me make it clear for people to understand. It only got there over the years, because he used to have good creativity and artistry, but But then over the years, he literally had creativity like a keeper. And the imagery became so repetitive, and it's like, so you're really not trying with this imagery, are you? So, of course, with Lil Wayne, he's an exceptionally good artist, 100%. Good rapper, not gonna take that away from him. Definitely average to below average. Not mad at that at all. But this is also why he kind of did. So, I just want to make it clear for some people to understand. Now, of course, with average specifically, you would have to be, and I already said this before, you would have to have good craft, excellent production, 50-50 on mastery, and good creativity and artistry. These fit to almost the majority of certain rappers. It just depends on who you talk to. Now, of course, I can name at least possibly two of this particular modern day generation. And people can take this away whether you like it or not. Because, again, I said this before. They could do this and they are really exceptionally well done with it. Now, the person I'm going to bring, two of them I'm going to bring up is going to be a little bit different here. One is DaBaby, obviously, and the other one is Lil Baby. Because I feel like those two specifically fit the average rap category. Now, there's more to them, obviously, because one of them can excel, and then the other one can excel as well. They just don't try. And that's fair. I'm not going to take that away from them. So that's why I said, like, the average rap category is very new. You can excel or you can decrease. It depends. Really, it depends. So, let's move on to the above average. And I think a lot of people need to have this discussion about it. Now, for above average rappers, this is very, very simple. And I think a lot of people need to have this discussion about it specifically. Now, when you have this particular discussion, above average rappers would have to have a few things. And I think a lot of people need to have this discussion right here and there. So for the first one I'm going to bring up is excellent craft. You've worked on your craft for a very long time and you kept it at a all-time peak. You did everything you could to excel your craft. Make sure it reaches expectations. Not only for everyone, but for certain people that respect the hip-hop rap game as a whole. You did your best to do that, specifically. Now, this is very important because I think a lot of people need to understand there's a huge difference between them both. And I'm going to bring it up later while we have this discussion. When you have this discussion about something, it is abundantly important for you to go ahead and make sure that shit is tight, locked, and sealed. And once it's sealed, you cannot go any further than average and above average. Because once you exceed, I just realized what I said. You have to go at least from the farthest you can go is average. You can't even go up, like below average. Once you exceed in your excellent craft, you can't go any further down low. And I'm being serious. You can't even go as far as, and I think I saw a lot of people do this, where they're rating like certain rappers. There are certain rappers that are above a certain level that their average would be an 8.5 when it comes to rating an album. This is why I kept telling people time and time again that it is very important to not literally compare above average rappers to average rappers, because above average rappers can have a bad album, but they can switch from above average to average in a matter of a second because they already peaked at their craft. So they can't go anywhere else. They can't go below that. That wouldn't be possible. And the reason I say that is because you can't literally determine if they can go below average. It would be almost impossible for you to do so. Now, can it happen? Yes, definitely. But is there a huge chance that it can possibly happen? Fuck no. I have said this time and time again to some people, and I hate when people do this, and it's very frustrating. when you have certain people that literally just sit there and say like, "Oh, you're going to give him a 7.5 or anything like that." Like I saw the whole thing with Jordan Lucas, and I saw that they gave him such a low rating, and I sat there and had a discussion with a video about it. I literally have a video on this channel about it where I literally tell people like, y'all do realize that this man is an above average rapper. There should be no fucking reason he should be even getting no lower than a fucking 8.5. Like, I had to tell people this shit because otherwise they were just not gonna fucking listen at all. So I found it odd how we just had like such a huge issue with this and no one was paying attention to it. So let's not ramble any further. Let's go to the second one. The second one, 50-50 production. Now, why do you think that above average rappers need only 50-50 production? Well, over the years, it's very, very clear that production can be exploited a lot. And 2016 to 2017 kind of proved that. And of course, within that same production value, it's very clear that since it got exploited back then, it needed to be like at least double down to the point where you can go between good and bad. Because otherwise, you're just not going to be able to do it. You could go between good, decent, and then okay, and then after that, bad. You could go between them both. That's not a fucking problem. You could do 50-50 production when it comes to above average rappers because at certain points, they're not going to be able to have an excellent craft in a phenomenal production or excellent production. They can't do that. Now, there's certain rappers that can do that, but the problem is that over time with each album, it's certain points where people literally realize that their production value is not worth listening to. And it tends to happen a lot. This is exactly why I say, like, again, certain people who listen to music don't really pay attention to certain words, which is exactly why I said, like, at a certain point in a certain graphical standpoint, if you're only listening to rap just to not only listen to the music but not even pay attention to the words at all, then you're in a completely different genre. But then again, there's always that certain amount of people that I find odd that do this, where they bring up Missy Elliott in this, but I feel like Missy Elliott is a one multiplier that literally does have fucking lyrics, and some people actually pay attention to her when it comes to her lyrics. Same with Luda, same with DMX, but for some odd reason, whenever that's the case, y'all motherfuckers just completely dismiss that? Again, I must be in a completely wrong circle, or there's just certain people that have that type of mindset. I don't know why. But moving on. Now, the last two is very, very important, and I think a lot of people need to understand this. Because once you excel, you have these brownie points that are very, very important when it comes to being an above average rapper. And that is battle rap and boom bap mastery and exceeding creativity and artistry. These particular ones are very important because you know why? You have to realize that certain people have these type of like ways of things where they focus on the craft and focus on everything else down here, but refuse to focus on the production right here. And it's perfectly understandable, but the problem is that when you have certain people that literally focus on production, it's almost no winning with them when it comes to production. So you have to rely on just the three. Which, I keep saying this time and time again, people do this all the time. And it's not surprising where you literally have these type of people that go ahead and only focus on the production only when it comes to rap. Because now, since it's been exploited in 2016 to 2017, everyone has been literally fucking poisoned by that specific instance in that year, or at least that 2-year span. So, of course, you can't really do anything about that. So, it has to stay 50-50. What can you do? So, now that we're having this discussion, let's talk about above average rappers versus below average rappers. Because I think I've had this conversation about people, and I think I need to have this conversation. Because over the years, certain people, and I don't know why, they try to compare certain modern day rappers like Yachty Uzi, any of these guys to above average rappers. Now, Uzi, I give him a slide to a certain degree to it because he can at least excel from below to at least an average, damn near a fucking above average. Because one thing for sure is that he used to rap in the underground, so he just took a different lane. Same with Trippy. So I do not expect anything from those two, no doubt, because they already know. They already know. Now, as far as everything is concerned, there are certain rappers in this rap game that should not be having this discussion about this. But then again, there's some of them that literally, and I wouldn't say the rappers specifically having this discussion. There's certain rap fans that do this, and I don't know why they do this. And I find it odd that because they always have a certain cop out, and I don't know why this is a thing, but I've heard it millions of times, and I get tired of it. Where certain rap fans tend to try to defend certain rappers that do not even fucking try. And I don't know why they do this. And the reason I don't argue with them anymore, and a lot of people need to understand why I don't, is because they're so delusional. It's not even funny. They will die on that fucking molehill regardless even to have my fucking gloves off on it or not. Because once the gloves come off, you know in good well I'm willing to fucking tackle back with some of the stuff that is actually not only a fucking fact, but also the fact of life. Because one thing for sure is that if you're going to sit here and tell me that this is not the reality, I'm so going to get you with this. So when this specific thing kind of happened, because I was wondering why in the world this happened, it's because they're too delusional and so in depth with their own belief, they're refusing to acknowledge the fact that this is a thing. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the below average stays in that place for a reason. Because I think a lot of people need to understand that below average rappers can't out rap above average rappers. This should be something that should be at least this close right here. They're up here, they're down here. This should be nothing different here. But for some odd reason, and I think we've had this situation happen before. And I don't understand why people do this. So, let's back this up. Thank you. So, let's back this up. Going straight from the one particular one I'm going to bring up, which I've always had, which is Logic between Jaden Smith. I had to talk about these two before. And when I had to talk about these two, I specifically said, and I said this before, that there is a huge difference between below average and above average rappers. And when I tell you that there is a difference between a below average rapper and an above average rapper, there is a complete difference. Because if anybody remembers the remix that Logic did on Iconic, you would know that Jaden didn't even get in there. Why? Because you already know why. I'm sorry to say this, but Jaden is not at a good level to the point where he can literally be in the same track as Logic. I have said this time and time again to people. You cannot be in a rap track unless you can hold your own. And it's very, very clear that Jaden could not hold himself in that same track with Logic. It was abundantly clear. So I find it odd that when somebody have these conversations, they fall into this delusion that any rapper is literally at a high level, when that's not the case. Certain rappers are at a high level. Not all of them are. And I hate the fact that there's certain people that literally play devil's advocate saying that all rappers play at a high level. Because not only is that a cowardice answer, but you know exactly why that's a cowardice answer. Because one, you know that one has a higher level than the other. And two, one works on their craft than the other. And three, you know that 9 times out of 10, the other one does more lazy work than the other. So I'm confused and conflicted on why this is a thing where you got with certain people. Because I'm trying to figure out why on earth would you have these type of conversations when you know you're going to die on a molehill on something that is not even true. This is why I am making this video, because a lot of people need to understand that this is a very important video. You cannot have these conversations and take people seriously when they do this. You cannot do that. It is beyond provoked. Beyond provoked. Because there's just no way you're going to have these conversations with people and expect them to literally fall under these categories. They're not going to do it, because it just goes to show you how far people have gone in their own beliefs when it comes to being fans. And I can understand that. I totally understand that. But you have to literally admit when you have to concede. And this was what I was talking about. Like, no one wants to concede when they have a flaw. Like, I don't get this shit. I don't get this shit, yo. Like, come on. And then they literally say false information about a fucking rapper that don't really have that many flaws on a certain topic. I am just... But yeah. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. Like, this is all I have to show you. If you want to come back to this video and actually go through all this, go ahead, do you. This is just one way I had to explain how this works and all that. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like. Also, hit that subscribe button if you want new to the channel. It's been Zach, guys. Later.
What you think?